Hi guys, Steve with my house bidding you welcome to another video, and as you can see from the title of this video, it is another review. I want to do another game hunting video soon, maybe even a pickup soon, but I've been filming footage, but nothing that I can like really piece together into a video that makes sense, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like to just throw footage in there. I like to do like one big hunting block and film chronologically what I've done and show that. So I'm yet to do that. I've really not had a lot of time in the last couple months, but there's a big mess around me here. I'm currently in the process of listing all of my PlayStation 3 stuff, and after that, we've done most of it. After that, all I've got left to list is PS1, Wii, and Nintendo DS, and that's it. That'll be my whole collection listed and sold. But that's not to say I'm not still gaming. I'm still gaming maybe just as much as I ever was. Obviously, I've got a lot more responsibilities now, but when I do have the time, I still love to do some gaming, absolutely. And I spent my time in the last, I'd say, couple of months, maybe since before Christmas. I think I started this when I first got back from Japan, and I've just finished it on the Saturday that's just gone by 2 days ago. It is Breath of Fire 3 for the PlayStation 1. Finally, I'm playing and finishing a game that I own, and the next game will also be a game that I own. I'm playing Silent Hill F after this. I'm about 2 hours in. It's very good so far. I'm interested to see where it goes and what happens. But my copy here, I found this at a market for $5 way back. I'm talking maybe 14 years ago now, 2012. And my copy only came with the manual and the disc. I had to like make my own rest of it. And this is the artwork that we got for our version of the game. And I'll tell you right now, I think that character is Nina, but it's like the worst rendition of Nina you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, mine was an X-Rental, so thank you VideoFlix Burpengary for letting me finally play this game. I have owned this game for a very long time. I actually played this before, I want to say before I ever had a copy of it on PS1. I had it on the PlayStation Portable, and I got about, I want to say, I got just past the point where you've just become an adult. Like, I was just there. And I looked up how long there was left in the game, because I wasn't really used to playing long games back then. Like, 10 hours seemed like a long time for me back then. So when I saw after 15 hours that I was only about a third of the way through the game, I said, okay, I'm gonna stop playing this and move to something else. I was enjoying it, but like, I had to move to something else. But I'm glad I finally went back and played it. This is the second Breath of Fire game I've beaten. I beat Breath of Fire 4 last year, and this year I've beaten Breath of Fire 3. So, Breath of Fire 3 was released in 1997, September in Japan, and early 1998 in Australia. It is a turn-based RPG, similar to all other turn-based RPGs. It is in a fantasy setting, which later in the game becomes something of a sci-fi setting, and it's kind of revealed, kind of like if you played maybe like Phantasy Star 2, where like it's kind of a fantasy setting, but then later on you're revealed that like there's this big sci-fi element to everything. I think that was in Phantasy Star 2. One of the Phantasy Star games had that. Or, I'm pretty sure it was one of the Phantasy Star games. But this was the first game in the series to introduce like 3D. I've not played Breath of Fire 1 and 2, but I have watched Jason Graves' review of them, and Breath of Fire 1 seems a little rough around the edges. Breath of Fire 2 seems quite good. I do think I'd enjoy the collecting aspect of Breath of Fire 2 because I enjoyed it in Breath of Fire 3. The collecting aspect of, like, in Breath of Fire 2 you have to gain these orbs, but in Breath of Fire 3 you're collecting, like, skills and abilities from these masters, and that was in Breath of Fire 4 as well. But when I played through Breath of Fire 4, I kind of ignored them. So, as you go through the game, you can talk to specific NPCs, and they'll teach you how to do things if you level up under them as an apprentice. Like, some will teach you powerful magic spells, some will teach you abilities such as Steel, or one ability which was pretty useful to put on just about anybody was an ability that lets you take all the experience gained in that battle to one character, and that was very useful. Monopolize. So those kind of abilities. Some were attacking abilities, some were buffing abilities, but most of them were pretty useful. There's 6 characters you end up finding in the game. The main character is Ryu. The main character is always Ryu. In Breath of Fire, I've learned. It's kind of like Adol in the Ys games. Like, it's always the one guy. It's him. And so you're a being called a Brood, which is like a half dragon, half person. Think of it kind of like a werewolf, like someone who can transform into another being. There's a lot of these kind of beings in the world that Breath of Fire takes place in. I never caught the name of the overall world, only individual towns. But yeah, some people have the ability to transform into different creatures, like Rei, R-E-I, I believe it was pronounced Rei. He has the ability to transform into a were-tiger, and other characters can transform, like some bosses are humans, but then they transform into demons when you fight them, stuff like that. Tipo, I won't super spoil his thing. Although even just saying that might spoil something, like whatever. Yeah, it was an interesting element. You could, it made it for Ryu, who can transform into a dragon. You collect these different crystals all around the world, and they kind of, you can combine them together to create different kinds of dragons. The Ultimate Kaiser was the best one, and he looks like this like cool warrior. It looks really cool. It looked like he was going Super Saiyan, like, and that has the most powerful attacks of any. Others have like fire elements, water elements, like wind, holy elements. The other characters in the game include Mina, who is a princess. She's a princess of Windia. She has little wings, but she can't use them. I don't believe any character can. And this ties into Breath of Fire 4, which I found really interesting as I was playing through Breath of Fire 3. I actually think it's better to play Breath of Fire 3 after Breath of Fire 4, because it kind of, I feel like it connects the world in a more interesting way than going from 3 to 4. And I will compare them more as we go along, and I will say I preferred Breath of Fire 3 overall. Even though Breath of Fire 4 is doing more, I'll say it now. Breath of Fire 4 is, it's a turn-based RPG in the fantasy sci-fi setting, but it stops being the game it is every now and again to do like mini games and things that just aren't fun. In Breath of Fire 3, there's a small element of so it's like a top-down perspective, but from like a 3/4 angle, like an isometric view. Think The Immortal or a game like that. except you can turn the camera around and look in areas which maybe would be obscured from your view, and occasionally if you do this in Breath of Fire 3 you can find items. Somebody took this for Breath of Fire 4, and my god, like, they must have thought it was the greatest idea that has ever been. In Breath of Fire 3, it's a novel gimmick that is not over-tested and over-pushed on the player, but in Breath of Fire 4, it feels like a core mechanic in the game, and like, you are forced in many segments in Breath of Fire 4 to engage with it. Same with the minigames. There's a few minigames in Breath of Fire 3. One example being the fishing minigame, which you do have to do once to gain ingredients to make a dish for someone who is feeling depressed and wants to eat something, but he wants a specific thing, and he won't give you information until you make this item for him. This was a neat novelty in Breath of Fire 3 because it took about 20 minutes to do. In Breath of Fire 4, something like this takes a long time. It feels like you have to engage a lot more with these kind of mini-games in Breath of Fire 4. Another one in Breath of Fire 3 is the Fairy Town building, which you don't have to do. I never got the hang of it, never understood what I was doing wrong. These fairies would build up their town with your guidance, like you give them jobs to do and they do it. But it felt like every time I came back to their village, they were all dead except for one, and then I'd put that one searching for food and they'd build up again. Same thing in Breath of Fire 4, but you have to engage with it a little bit more, unfortunately. There's a mini-game in Breath of Fire 3 where you're controlling a ship, like a ship on the ocean, and you're navigating jagged rocks to try and get somewhere within a certain time limit. It's a little annoying, but it only takes about a minute if you know what you're doing, maybe 5-10 minutes if you're going to get all of the items in that area. But in Breath of Fire 4, it feels like there's those kind of mini-games everywhere. Like in every chapter of the game you have to do them. In Breath of Fire 3, there's a small segment that takes about 5 minutes where you're in the town of Windia and you have to find these children who are playing hide and seek, and they will give you information once you find all of them. Basically the main thing you're doing in this game is just finding information and getting information to get to the next area, and so you're playing as Ryu, who's trying to find out more about his kind and what happened to them, and spoiler alert, they're all dead except for him and one other, which I won't spoil. But in Breath of Fire 4, they take this exact same gimmick, except you have to find, like, twice the amount of characters. Twice the amount of characters, and some of them are running around, and they're extremely hard to catch. The amount of time in Breath of Fire 4 it took me to catch one of these characters was the same amount of time it took me to catch all of them in Breath of Fire 3. So they recycle a gimmick, but unfortunately make it worse, and that's why I kind of prefer Breath of Fire 3, because it's a little less ambitious, but it doesn't fly too close to the sun and burn its wings in that way, like Icarus in Breath of Fire 4. Nina is a magician character. I will say though, I did not find a great use for magic in this game. In Breath of Fire 4, the balance for combat seems much fairer if you want to be a magic user, while in this one, it's much more about finding a good combination for dragon abilities and connecting with the right master to gain physical abilities. Like, there was an ability called, I think it was Shadow Stalk or something, or Shadow Strike, where I gave it to Momo, who was kind of like a hybrid attacking magic character, and she was able to do higher damage with that ability than I could get from anybody else except for Ryu in his Ultimate Kaiser form. And it was just like basically just a standard attack, except it hit for a critical every time. And it was a guaranteed hit as well. It wouldn't miss. It was cheap to use too. It cost like 9 mana or 9 magic points or whatever. Or they're called AP, like attribute points or whatever. And because I put Momo with Deus, she had like, by the end of the game, like well over 200 AP. So I could just spam that and just wipe out most enemies. So Momo is a like engineer mechanic character. She's got like bunny ears. And she also has a sidekick who I forget the name of, but he becomes important later, very later on in the story, to become a kind of... its name is Honey. It's like a little robot creature, but you think it's like an animal. And it ends up unlocking like Miria's lair. Like, Miria... Is it Miria? The final boss, the god of the world. There's also Gar, called Garland in the Japanese version. He's a large... He looks like a dragon, but he's called a guardian, and his job was to hunt the brood like Ryu and to kill them and destroy them. He's a very strong character, good melee character. I didn't use him in the game. Same with Rei, I didn't use him in the game. My team was Ryu, Momo, and Pico. Or Peiko. Peiko is I believe he's a Yggdrasil sapling? It's like a giant magical tree that can speak. I believe he's a sapling of that thing, or a mutated sapling. He comes out of like one of the boss monsters, and then he becomes a playable character after you beat the boss monster, who's like a mutation. But at first, he's only level 1, so he's very weak, but you can make him very strong. He's never the best attacking character, but if you pair him with... Fal, who's one of the masters, he's like a big horse guy. If you pair him with him, then he'll gain like some of the best defense and health in the whole game. And he's a fantastic tank character. And he's fantastic for like an item user, or... Like, he would be the one using items, and I know I wouldn't have to worry about healing him in battle. I could use him to heal other people in tough battles. So those are the characters, the main ones. The story of the game is pretty good. I liked the world it was set in, because for the most part, it's not a world you typically see in JRPGs. In JRPGs, there's usually like a tyrannical overlord or a crazed god trying to kill everybody, or like a Sephiroth, like someone trying to restart the world in his vision or something. But in this game, at least until very near the end, your assumption of the world is that it's pretty nice. It's just kind of nice. There are bad people in it. There are like mercenaries and bad people, but for the most part, like, it seems it's not a... Breath of Fire 4 is a land torn apart by war, while in Breath of Fire 3, everyone seems to get on between the nations, or at the very least, they don't interact in a harmful way with each other. And I quite liked that. It was quite refreshing. It made it so that, like, getting through the game never felt very heavy in a way. Like, things would happen, you'd be moving along, you'd be making good progress, but you didn't feel... Emotional investment is not the right term, because I was invested, but you didn't feel like it was like trying to tug at your heartstrings or trying to like be sappy or something. Like, it was just getting through the game and like figuring out this mystery of what are the brood, where did they come from, what are they doing, like, why is there only one left? Like, and near the end of the game, you do discover, spoiler alert, they were all killed because they pose a threat to the god Miria, who uses the Guardians as her, like, handymen to try and, like, destroy the brood. Because she fears that they could, destroy the world. The world is slowly dying though. There's a very large desert in the game near Miria's lair. She resides underneath a town. It's got a confusing name. It's like Khan or something. It's like a futuristic tech town, but it's totally destroyed and deserted. And it's like unlike anything else in the game that's like traditional fantasy setting. It looks more like a modern city, you know, like Tokyo or something. And the desert is like spreading. She made this giant sea to kind of stop the desert from spreading to any other part of the world, just to contain it on one island. But she does fear that eventually, like, as her power weakens, as she gets older as a god, like the desert will eventually spread to other areas. And you do kind of see it, like in the first area you're in, it's lush forest, but as you get further out into the world, it does become a bit more like desolate, jagged, a bit rough around the edges. You know, you can kind of see that it's like, oh, like this oasis is like kind of surrounded by places that most people probably wouldn't want to live, like little, like not full deserts, but maybe like semi-arid areas, like volcano areas. Yeah, stuff like that. Like, I thought it was a very interesting world. I liked way more exploring in Breath of Fire 3 than Breath of Fire 4. In Breath of Fire 4, they do the same gimmick as Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, where you're, or like a Mario RPG, where you're on a dotted line and you can only like go between the dots or the set areas. While in Breath of Fire 3, it's just a big overworld and you can walk around the overworld. You do eventually get teleportation places, and that does make it a bit easier to get around the world. They're good foreshadowing too, because you find some of them before you ever have access to them to actually use them. And you see them and you think, oh, like, what's this? Like, this isn't like a fantasy item. Like, this is like a big circle. What's going on in here? Like, and there's a control pad, but no one knows what to do. I liked it. It was good foreshadowing. The combat's very good. Some enemies have like death spells, which I didn't like. I never liked that in RPGs, but a lot of RPGs have them, especially the older ones. I feel like death spells are something that has kind of gone to the wayside, but man, like, especially near the end of the game, there's one enemy, the vampire, and he just uses death spells. Like, you just get unlucky, man, and he just kills your fucking body. You can wear rings. You can get equipment and wear rings. Like, there's a ring that's supposed to stop you from dying to death, instant death magic, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Like, you gotta stack them with other items, like holy items, to get them to work better, and I didn't really like it. It is a game where you have to switch your equipment around quite a lot, and if you're not super keen on something like that, like, I'm a kind of gamer where, like, I like to set up my character as I like him, and then I don't change a whole lot. And I'm very happy to play through, like, 20 hours of the game with the same equipment if I'm doing good damage and winning battles. It doesn't get boring for me, but in Breath of Fire, depending on the area, you might have to switch your equipment around to have, like, fire defense, or maybe, lightning defense, or maybe you have a weapon that deals fire damage, and that's a lot better against a boss you're coming up against, and you just have to kind of prepare stuff. Oh yeah, you can hear the music here. I'm not a big fan of the music. I thought it was a bit... I like the overworld theme, but I couldn't actually tell you any other theme in the game. I thought it was quite lackluster for what it was. Just kind of there. Kind of like a John Carpenter soundtrack. Like, it's there, you can hear it. you're acknowledging it while you're listening to it, but after it's over, it's like the last thing you think about, or you don't think about it at all. Like, it's just set dressing, pretty much. I didn't feel like there was any song that I would want to, like when I played Ihatovo Monogatari, the main theme of when you're walking around the town, I have that on my phone. I listen to it sometimes, and, like, there are other situations like that, like Dragon Quest V, I have the boat theme on my phone because I think it's such a good little piece of music, little jingle. But there's nothing in Breath of Fire 3 that I would, like, want to have on my phone to listen to again. Even this one, which I do like, but I'm not super keen on. So you do grow throughout the story. You start off as a child. As the child version of Ryu, you meet Tipo and Ray. And this isn't super far in, but Tipo and Ray get annihilated, and you get taken away by mercenaries who want to either sell you because you're a part dragon, but they end up using you in a big tournament, and that's where you meet Gar, who is, like, the strongest person in the tournament. He ends up winning, and you end up being freed from the tournament, running away, and that kind of sets the whole thing in motion of you trying to find out, like, more about the Brood and more about your main player character, Ryu. And, you start off as a kid, and there is a time jump. There's a part where you become a dragon, and then you lose consciousness, and then you wake up, like, years later in the same mine that you were in when you were found as a child by Tipo and Ray. But this time Gar finds you and you're an adult, and then you continue the story from there. I did like that. I do like games that have like a jump in time. I really like that about Breath of Fire, about Dragon Quest V, how you jump ahead in time every now and again. There's even a similarity of, like, a character turning to stone in this one. But that's not a big spoiler. It doesn't, like, even if I explained it to you, it wouldn't really spoil anything. Like, it's not like a story element or nothing. It just happens at the end of the game. But I definitely recommend it. It's a very solid game. I definitely put it at, like kind of like that 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5. I think I had Breath of Fire 4 maybe at about an 8, so I put this at about an 8.5 because I did enjoy it a little bit more. I think they're good companion pieces to each other, and they're both very good games. If you like RPGs, especially if you like other PlayStation 1 RPGs, give it a go. Like, I don't think it's crazy hard to find. I'm pretty sure you can play it on, like, PlayStation Network. It's pretty easily available. Even if you want to do it in a dodgy way to play it, that's fine. Who cares? It's a 30-year-old game at this point. They've made their money from it. The next game I might play after Silent Hill F, which I'm playing, is probably Wild Arms, because I think that's a blind spot for me in my RPG playing, and I am still wanting to play more PS1 RPGs, and I think Wild Arms is going to be a good one. Let's see if there's anything else I got to say. Oh, the game's beautiful. Beautiful 2D artwork. I love when they would do the 2D artwork on the PS1 games. Like, Hercules on PS1 is a great looking game. Like, I love when they would do that 2D artwork, like Tomba. Like, Breath of Fire 3 isn't anything like those games, but it has that really nice looking 2D art style, like a Super Nintendo graphics, but pushed to its limit. Like, I think it's really good looking. There's a little bit of 3D stuff, but not a whole lot. I think Breath of Fire 4 had a lot more 3D gimmicks than Breath of Fire 3 did. So if you like those kind of graphics, like 2D sprite work, like, yes, it's a good game. Thumbs up, man. I liked it. Right, I can't think of anything else to say. Thank you guys for watching. See you in my house, bidding you farewell. Have a good one. Peace.